혼자 있는 고양이 제니예요. 오늘은 해리포터 2권 챕터 13 어제 읽던 거 이어서 읽어보도록 할게요.
Could have been anything, said Ron. Maybe he got 30 OWLs or saved the teacher from the giant squid. Maybe he murdered Myrtle under everything a favor. Harry could tell through the look of Hermione's face that she was thinking what he was thinking. What? Said Ron, looking from one to the other. Well, the Chamber of Secrets was opened 50 years ago, wasn't it? He said. That's what Malfoy said.
Yeah, said Ron slowly.
And this diary is 50 years old, said Hermione, tapping at it excitedly. So? Oh, Ron, wake up, snapped Hermione. Do you know the person who opened the chamber last time was expelled 50 years ago? We know T.M. Riddle got an award for special services to the school 50 years ago. Well, what if Riddle got a special reward for catching the heir of Slytherin? His diary would be telling us everything, where the chamber is and how to open it and what sort of a creature lives in it. The person who's behind the attacks this time wouldn't want that man around, would they? That's a brilliant theory, Hermione, said Ron, with just one tiny little flaw. There's nothing written in his diary. But Hermione was putting her one of her bag. It might be invisible ink, she whispered. She tapped the diary 3 times and said, "A perfume!" Nothing happened. Undaunted, Hermione shoved her hand back into her bag and pulled out what appeared to be a bright red eraser. It's a revealer. I got it in Diagon Alley, she said. She rubbed hard on January at the fence. Nothing happened. I'm telling you, there's nothing to find in there, said Ron. Riddle just got a diary from Christmas and couldn't be bothered filling it in. Harry couldn't explain, even to himself, why he didn't just throw the Riddle's diary away. The fact was that even though he knew the diary was blank, he kept absent-mindedly picking it up and turning the pages as though it was a story he wanted to finish. And while he was sure he never heard the name T.M. Riddle before, it still seemed to mean something to him. Almost as though Riddle was a friend he had when he was very small and half forgotten. But this was absurd. He never had friends before Hogwarts. Dudley had made sure of that. Nevertheless, Harry was determined to find out more about Riddle. So next day, at break, he headed for the trophy room to examine Riddle's special award, accompanied by an interested Hermione and the thoroughly unconvinced Ron, who told them it seemed enough of this trophy room to last him a lifetime. Riddle's burnished gold shield was tucked away in a corner cabinet. It didn't carry details of right in the beginning to you. Good thing, too, or be even bigger and not spilling polishing it, said Ron. However, they did find Riddle's name on the old medal for magical merit, and on the list of all head boys. It sounds like Percy, said Ron, wrinkling his nose in disgust. Prefect, head boy, probably top of every class. You say that like it's a bad thing, said Hermione's slightly hurt voice. The sun had now begun to shine weakly on Hogwarts again. Inside the castle, the mood had grown more hopeful. There had been no more attacks since those on Justin and nearly had a snake, and Madame Pomfrey was pleased to report that the mandrakes were becoming moody and secretive, meaning that there was a fast-living childhood. The moment they acted their cleats up, they're very good reporting again, Harry heard her telling Filch kindly about one afternoon. We belong to the crumbling up and stewing them. We'll have Mrs. Norris back in no time. Perhaps the heir of Slytherin had lost his or her nerve, thought Harry. It must be getting riskier and riskier to open the Chamber of Secrets with the schools alert, suspicious. Perhaps the monster, whatever it was even now setting itself down to hide away for another 50 years. Andy McMillan of Hufflepuff didn't take this cheerful view. He was still convinced that Harry was the guilty one, giving himself away at the dueling club. Peeves was happy that is. He kept popping up in the crowded corridors singing, "Oh, but are you rather?" now with a dance routine to match. Gilderoy Lockhart seemed to think he himself had made the attack stop. Harry overheard it telling Professor McGonagall about the Gryffindors hiding up the transfiguration. "I don't think there'll be any more trouble, Minerva," she said, tapping his nose knowingly and winking. "I think the Chambers elected them this time. The culprit must have known it was only a matter of time before I caught them. Very sensible to stop now before I came down hard on them. You don't. What the school needs now is a morale booster. Wash away the memories of last term. I wouldn't say any more just now, but I think I know just the thing." Tapped his nose again and strode off. Lockhart's idea was on Robberster became clear at breakfast time on February the 14th. Harry hadn't had much sleep because of late running bridge practice the night before, and he hurried down the Great Hall slightly late. He thought for a moment that it was through the wrong doors. The walls were all covered with the large, lurid pink flowers. Worse still, half-chewed confetti was collecting in the floor ceiling. Harry went down to the Gryffindor table, where Ron was sitting, looking scared, and Hermione seemed to have come over rather quickly. "What's going on?" Harry asked them, sitting down and wiping confetti off his feet. Ron pointed to the teacher's table, and Turkey too disgusted to speak. Lockhart, wearing lurid pink robes to match the decorations, was waving for silence. The teachers on either side of him were looking stony-faced. From where he sat, Harry could see a muscle going in Professor McGonagall's cheek. Snape looked as though someone had just fed him a large beaker of skelly grow. "Happy Valentine's Day!" Lockhart shouted. "And may I thank the 46 people who have so far sent me cards. Yes, I have taken the liberty of arranging a little surprise for you, and it doesn't end there." And through the doors near the entrance hall marched the dozens, surly-looking dwarfs. Not just any dwarfs, however. Lockhart had them all, wearing golden wings and carrying hops. "My friendly carved carrying cubits," beamed Lockhart. "They'll be roving around the school today, delivering your valentines. And the fun doesn't stop there. I'm sure my colleagues will want to enter in the spirit of the occasion. Why not ask Professor Snape to show you how to whip up a love potion?"
And while you're at it, Professor Flickwick knows more about entrancing enchantments than any wizard I've ever met. His sly old dog. Professor Flitwick buried his face in his hands. Snape was looking as though the first person to ask him for a love potion would be fat poison. Please, Hermione, tell you we're one of the 46, said Ron as he left the hall for first lesson. Hermione suddenly became very interested in searching her bag for her timetable and didn't answer. All day long, the Drebs kept barging into their classes to deliver valentines, to the annoyance of the teachers. And late that afternoon, as the Gryffindors, after looking upstairs for charms, one of them caught up with Harry. "Oi, you, Harry Potter!" shouted a particularly grim-looking dwarf, elbowing people out of the way to catch Harry. Hot all over the thought of being given a valentine in front of a crew of first-years, which happened to include Ginny Weasley, Harry tried to escape. The dwarf, however, cut his way through the crowd like kicking people's shins, and reached him before he'd gone 2 paces. "I've got a musical message to deliver to Harry Potter in person," he said, twanging his harp in a threatening sort of way. "Not here!" Harry hissed, trying to escape. "Stay still!" grunted the dwarf, grabbing hold of Harry's bag and pulling him back. "Let me go!" Harry snarled, tugging. With a loud ripping noise, his bag slipped in two. His books, wand, parchments, and quill spilled onto the floor, and his ink bottle smashed over the lot. Harry scrambled them around, trying to pick it up before the dwarf started singing, causing something to hold them in the corridor. "What's going on here?" came the cold, drawling voice of the Draco Malfoy. Harry started stuffing everything feverishly into the bag, desperate to get away before Michael could hear his musical valentine. "What's all the commotion?" said Hermione's familiar voice as Percy Weasley arrived. Losing his head, Harry tried to make a run for it, but the dwarf seized him round and dazed and brought it crashing to the floor. "Right," he said, sitting on Harry's ankles. "Here is your singing valentine." His eyes are as green as a fresh pickled toad. His hair is as dark as the black bald. I wish he was mine, if he really divine, the hero who conquered that dark lord. Harry would have given all the golden Gorgons to evacuate on the spot. Trying vehemently to laugh along with everyone else, he got up, his feet numb from the weight of the ruff, as Percy Weasley did his best to disperse the crowd, some of whom were crying with mirth. Off you go, the bell rang 5 minutes ago, off the class now," he said, shooing some of the younger students away. "And you, Malfoy!" Harry, glancing over, saw Malfoy stood and snatched up something. Leering, he showed it to Crabbe and Goyle, and Harry realized he got Riddle's diary. "Give that back," said Harry quietly. "Wonder what Potter's written in this," said Malfoy, who obviously hadn't noticed the ear on the cover and thought he had Harry's own diary. A hush fell over the onlookers. Ginny was staring from the diary to Harry, looking terrified. "Hand it over, Malfoy," said Percy sternly. "When I've had a look," said Malfoy, waving the diary thoughtfully at Harry. Percy said, "As a school prefect," but Harry had lost his temper. He pulled out his wand and shouted, "Expelliarmus!" And just as Snape had disarmed Lockhart, so Malfoy found the diary shooting out of his hand into the air. Ron, grinning broadly, caught it. "Harry," said Percy loudly, "no magic in the corridors. I'll get rubbish, you know." Harry didn't care. We got one over on Malfoy, and that was worth 5 points from Gryffindor any day. Malfoy was looking furious as Ginny passed him to under a classroom. He yelled spitefully after her, "I don't think Potter liked your Valentine much." Ginny covered her face in her hands and ran into the class, snoring. Ron pulled up his one too, but Harry pulled him away. Ron didn't need to spend the whole of charms belching slugs. It wasn't until he had reached Professor Flitwick's class that Harry would notice something rather odd about Riddle's diary. All his other books were drenched in scarlet ink. The diary, however, was as clean as it's been before the ink bottle had splashed all over it. He tried to point this out from Ron, but Ron was having trouble his run again. Large purple bubbles were blossoming out at the end, and he was interested in everything else.
재미있게 들으셨다면 구독과 좋아요 꾹꾹 눌러주시고 다음 영상에서 만나요. 안녕!